Niña-like fashion. And I'll explain. The whole northern tier is going to be very cold. The central plains normal temperatures and mild conditions in the deep south. So you can tell what the tropics is going to come down. It's going to come down like this and pretty much leave the southern areas relatively on the dry side. Doesn't mean it won't rain at all. It'll just be far less. And again, this may change. We might switch to colder temperatures here at some point if the troughing develops like some of the models want to do. And we might even get a surprise on Christmas Eve here in the Phoenix area. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on as to what we could be seeing or what we may not see at all. But it would have been a long time. I think the first time since records began that any type of wintry precipitation fell on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day in Phoenix. It's not likely at this time this is going to happen, but some of the models have been relatively consistent on bringing a very cold rain on Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, and even a very slight chance of some wet snow down to the valley floors here in the Phoenix area. Don't hang your hat on that. Please don't take my word for it, because it is far from certain at this time, especially with snowfall or any type of snowfall at all during the winter season. Have I seen snow here in the Phoenix area? Yes, I have. And it's accumulated at times, probably during the month of February or early March. But as fast as it comes, it melts. But anyways, just to give you a model idea of what we could be looking at, we'll go to the CFS now real quick. And again, this is my La Nina weather outlook, but what I'm looking at is for basically a drier than average winter here across Southern California, much of Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, southern tiers of states. Look, overall trend is to be drier than normal, but again, there are other things that influence La Nina, like much of last year. Okay, so we got to be careful when we talk about these things here, about the La Nina or anything else that goes on. See if I can get it up here. I hope so. Alright, so this will give you an idea of what to expect in terms of precipitation, in terms of, we'll do it by monthly, and you can kind of see what we've got going on here as far as precipitation and stuff. But you have to take with a grain of salt. You can't necessarily say that this is going to be the case, or this is what's actually going to happen. You got to be careful when you're making forecasts like this, because things can and will change. Time and time again, we have seen it. Alright, so for January, you can see we're expecting normal to slightly below normal rainfall. Definitely wet in the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Plains. Outlook for February, kind of a mixed bag. Slight dryness perhaps, but relatively normal rainfall is expected. And during the month of March, you can see that some slight drying here in West Texas and relatively normal rainfall for much of the Southwest per se. At this current time, but again, we don't necessarily know how much of an influence it's going to have on the precipitation right now, because again, it's a mixed bag. You know, you gotta take what you can for a forecast with a grain of salt, especially initially. You just cannot be certain of what's going to happen. All right, so each model run, January was a lot more red. We had a lot more red color here. Now we got some light orange color, which means only slightly, maybe a tenth to a quarter of an inch below normal. But again, it's been getting wetter and wetter in the Pacific Northwest. And February looks dry right now, but again, this could change as well. Again, La Nina, like fashion, is northwest to southeast fashion. That's very much what these models are showing. But you gotta be careful. You know, that said this about last January. It said it about last February that it was going to be very dry. There was going to be hardly any rain. And it turned out wet. So the example of that, it was 2015, 2016. They were calling for very wet conditions across the South. Never happened. It was extremely dry that winter with little or no rain. Then last year they said it was going to be dry as a bone with little or no rainfall. And it turned out to be quite wet for California, as we know. And not just California, the Pacific Northwest and much of the desert Southwest were well above average in terms of rainfall. So we'll keep you guys posted on how this is going to envelop over the coming, months here. So we'll see exactly what we can get our hands on when more data does pour in. But again, I'll be making updated videos for you guys anyway on this. So We don't have to worry too much. We're going to go to another CFS model. And I know I sound really boring, but again, I'm just giving you guys an idea of what to expect and what the possible outcomes will be. Alright, the one I go to, again, this is all property of the National Weather Service. These are like little outlets from the National Weather Service. This was the pattern I was talking about. It kind of gives you an idea of what a positive PDO is. You can see very large ridge of high pressure, warm conditions here in much of the Pacific Northwest and across the West and Midwest. Almost split down, right down by the Mississippi practically, almost. And then very cold conditions in the east, eastern and northeastern part of the country being the bullseye for the extreme cold and snowy conditions when there's moisture present with it. But again, you can see that northwest flow, and that's typical of La Niña or a negative, a positive PDO, positive PNA, I'm sorry, and also a positive PDO. So positive PDO, positive PNA will give this type of pattern. And then this is very much the result in the New England area when you have those two negative, positive phases going on. Also, a positive NAO causes this pattern as well. So there's those three things working in conjunction, causing these very mild conditions. So with the negative PNA, you're going to have this pattern switch. This cold will be in the northwest and parts of the southwest, and the warmth will be in the deep south, working its way up into New England and the Midwest area. So that pattern may come to change after the 17th or so. We'll start seeing a gradual pattern change, but most likely more progressive weather pattern across the year, which is what we can hope for. We hate these stagnant patterns. I don't like them whatsoever. But just to give you guys an idea of what is going on there. Alright, so that's it for this weather video, guys. I'll have another update soon for you guys, showing some maps of the precipitation and what we think might happen, and that maybe there's also less than a 2% chance, 2% or so, chance of seeing some snowflakes either Christmas Eve, late Christmas Eve into Christmas Day is a possibility, but is so remote that we won't really discuss much about it right now. So we'll keep you guys posted, and we will talk to you all later. This is Timothy Breault, storm spotter for the National Weather Service in Phoenix, Arizona, signing off.